Sevy here, and today I am super excited to be talking about this interesting and fascinating topic. So today we will be discussing the Toynbee Tiles. Now, the Toynbee Tiles are these cryptic messages that are constructed out of pieces of linoleum that are then embedded inside rectangular linoleum tiles, which are then embedded into asphalt on the street. Now, these tiles have been found in over 24 major cities in the United States and go as far west as Kansas City, Missouri, as far north as Boston, Massachusetts, and they also go as far south as Richmond, Virginia. The tiles have also been found in cities in South America such as Santiago, Buenos Aires, and Rio de Janeiro. The tiles are generally about the size of an American license plate. However, there are a handful that are quite a bit larger in size. The main messages on the tile states, quote, Toynbee idea in movie 2001, resurrect the dead on planet Jupiter, unquote. Other tiles feature cryptic political statements such as the Manifesto tile, which was found on 16th and Chestnut in Philadelphia, which states, quote, John Knight sent the mafia to murder me in May of 1991. Journalists, all of them gloated to my face about my death, and Knight Rider's great power to destroy. John Knight went into Hellion. Binge of joy over Knight Rider's great power to destroy. I secured a house with glass doors and fled the country in June 1991. Orders of NBC executives got the U.S. Federal District Attorney's Office and got the FBI to get Interpol to establish task force that located me in Dover, England. When back home, Inquirer got union goons from their own employees' union to send down sports journalists who, with baseball bat, bashed in lights and windows of neighborhood cars as well as men outside my house. They are stationed there still, waiting for me. NBC, CBS, Group W, West House, Time Warner, Fox, Universal, all of the cult of the Hellion. Each were much worse than Knight Rider ever was, mostly Hellion Jews. When KYW and NBC executives told John Knight, the whole coven gloated on how their Soviet pals had found a way to turn it into a, unquote. This tile is considered to be one of the more intense tiles since the message is very political and paranoid. Now, the interpretation of the tile's meaning has mostly come from the documentary filmmaker by the name of Justin Duar, who produced a documentary about the tiles called, quote, Resurrect the Dead, the Mystery of the Toynbee Tiles, unquote. Justin believes that the tile's reference to Toynbee refers to the British historian Arnold Toynbee, and that Kubrick's 2001 is a reference to the 1968 film 2001: A Space Odyssey, who was co-written and directed by filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. This movie is about a manned mission to Jupiter and is based on evolution of mankind. While most of the tiles have the above-mentioned message, some other tiles have messages related to political issues, conspiracies involving the press as well as the U.S. government and the USSR. A specific tile that was located in Santiago de Chile has an address embedded into it. The address is 2624 South 7th Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The people who live at the address currently stated that they know nothing about the tiles or their messages. This address is also the location of Sevy Verna, who is one of the most suspected tilers, and I will mention him more below. The theory of how the tiler would place the tiles into the asphalt has been highly thought about, and in the documentary it is discussed and believed after doing much research that the tiler must have been using a vehicle with the floorboards cut out that would allow him to embed the tiles into the ground just by driving over to the location, stopping just long enough to place the tile, and then drive away. Justin Duar discovered a fresh tile one night when he decided to walk over to a store for a sandwich. On his way home, Justin saw a piece of shiny black material on the road, and once Justin was able to get a closer look, he realized that it was tar paper covering something. So he removed the tar paper, and then he discovered a fresh Toynbee tile underneath. Justin believes that he must have missed the tiler by just minutes since he did not see the tile on his way to the store that night. Justin believes that the tiler places the tiles on the ground, and then the pressure from the cars driving over them pushes them into the road's surface. The creator of the Toynbee Tiles is still unknown, but there have been some very interesting suspects since the tiles' first discovery. The first suspected tiler is a man by the name of James Morasco. In 1983, a man going by the name of James Morasco called into a late-night radio show and expressed his interest in the concept of colonizing Jupiter with the dead molecules of people that have passed away. Morasco claimed that he came across this idea while reading a book by the historian Toynbee. While discussing this idea with the Philadelphia Inquirer, Morasco discussed how Toynbee's book talked about a theory in which you could bring dead molecules back to life. This idea was also depicted in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Morasco was also the known creator of the Minority Association, which produced a newsletter that talked about these kinds of ideas. In 2003, a man called James Morasco in Philadelphia after looking up his name and phone number in the telephone book. He was told by Morasco's wife that Morasco had passed away in March of that year at the age of 88. The man then asked Morasco's wife if she knew anything about the Toynbee Tiles, to which she expressed that she had never heard about them. The next potential tiler who was discussed in the documentary by Justin Dorr was Severino or Sevy Verna. Justin believed that Verna used the name James Morasco as an alias. The reason for believing that Verna was the tiler was based on the fact that the street surrounding Verna's residence was completely covered in trial tiles or prototypes that Justin believed were tests to see how the tiles could be placed. Sevy Verna was also suspected to have been someone who would drive his vehicle around late at night using a ham radio to broadcast messages via shortwave radio about his wild theories and ideas. The neighbors surrounding Verna's house reported to Justin that they would see Verna driving a car that was missing the passenger seat with a very long antenna on it, and he would drive by outside, and as he did this, the TV inside the house would change its normal broadcasting to a blank screen with a weird message talking about the Toynbee idea. Lastly, the last suspect that could have possibly been the Toynbee tiler was a man by the name of Railroad Joe or Julius Piroli. Now, this theory also comes from the Toynbee documentary. Piroli worked for the CONRAIL Railroad, and he lived at the same address that was on one of the Toynbee tiles years previously. Piroli's family also worked as tombstone carvers, which was discussed in the documentary, which helped show that it was very possible that he could have been the tiler since he was already used to creating tombstones, which are not far from creating tiles. In the documentary, it was discussed that the CONRAIL passed through every single town that had a tile, as well as the fact that the tiles stretched as far west and as far south as the CONRAIL Railroad went. It was also mentioned that a very large telescope was shipped to Chile, South America, using the railroad that Piroli worked at, which is where more tiles were located. The only issue with Piroli being the tiler is that he passed away on March 27, 1987, which would remove him as being the tiler since the tiler has created and placed tiles since that date. Okay, so we have come to the portion of the video where I will give my honest opinion, and I have to say that I believe that the true tiler has to be Sevy Verna. Now, I just base this on the fact that the test tiles or prototypes that surrounded his property basically show that it was either him or one of his neighbors. You just cannot look past the fact that the true tiler used that specific area as his testing zone. My theory as to why he created the tiles is based on the fact that this man clearly had issues with death, and it just shows that he was trying to work through these issues in his own way. I also think that he was very paranoid and scared of the government, or he had a real reason to be scared, but one that most of us are not aware of. Either way, I feel really bad for him, and I just hope that he has finally found some peace one way or another. Well guys, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it and learning about this super intriguing topic. I absolutely love this one, and I highly suggest that you go watch the documentary by Justin Dorr called Resurrect the Dead, The Mystery of the Toynbee Tiles. I think that the documentary is much more informative and helpful in understanding the whole story surrounding tiles than my video is, so please go watch it. As always, I want to thank you for watching my video, and if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing, and if you want to see more videos like this one, please hit the like button. I also want to thank every single one of my current subscribers. I really appreciate you guys, and I want to welcome any new ones too. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!